Shabbat Shalom, scattered Meshpachah. Welcome to Lost Sheep United's blogcast, where today we'll be discussing why does the world really celebrate Mother's Day? Most consider it a secular holiday, to simply remember their mother for all their hard work, just as Anna Jarvis originally purposed. Anna Jarvis of Philadelphia, whose mother had organized women's group to promote friendship and health, originated Mother's Day. On May 12, 1907, she held a memorial service at her late mother's church in Grafton, West Virginia. Within 5 years, virtually every state was observing the day, and in 1914, U.S. President Woodrow Wilson made it a national holiday, Encyclopedia Britannica. That seems harmless enough. In fact, many believers interpret one of the top 10 commands of the Father to incite the observation of such a festival. Exodus 20:12 says, "Honor your father and your mother, so that your days are prolonged on the soil which Yahuwah your Elohim is giving you." When we refer to the purpose and definition of Mother's Day in the Britannica, we find this seems to be exactly what the holiday is all about, honoring mothers. Mother's Day, holiday in honor of mothers that is celebrated in countries throughout the world. In its modern form, the holiday originated in the United States, where it is observed on the second Sunday in May. Many other countries also celebrate the holiday on this date, while some mark the observance at other times of the year. Encyclopedia Britannica. The Britannica says here its modern form originated in the U.S., although it is celebrated throughout the world. Although its modern form did originate with one U.S. citizen, Anna Jarvis, it's also worth mentioning she hated how it became, quote, all about gifts, rather than memorializing and honoring mothers. She regretted her part in making it an official holiday and spent the rest of her days trying to have it banned before she was condemned to an insane asylum. So, is it a Christian holiday or a worldly festival? And does it really matter? The U.S. was a Christian nation from its beginning, so it would make sense if early American believers originally felt the command to honor our mother was best observed by setting apart a particular date to do so. It would also be pretty inspiring to note other pagan countries followed the biblical command, quote unquote, through that example. So, did Christians influence pagans, or did pagans influence Christians? If we continue reading just a few lines later, we learn more about how the, quote, modern form of Mother's Day evolved from earlier customs in the Middle Ages. During the Middle Ages, the custom developed of allowing those who had moved away to visit their home parishes and their mothers on Letter Sunday, the fourth Sunday of Lent. This became Mothering Sunday in Britain, where it continued into modern times, although it has largely been replaced by Mother's Day. So Mother's Day wasn't a secular holiday or a modern Christian holiday originally, but evolved out of a Middle Ages Roman Catholic holiday. However, Catholics rarely, if ever, make up brand new festivals. No, they prefer to, quote, baptize pagan customs to the glory of the church, as you can read more about in these following excerpts. Unsurprisingly, if we continue reading the Britannica's definition, we find the Mother's Day festival of the Middle Ages not to even have been invented by the Roman Catholic Church, but borrowed from even earlier pagan rituals, including Rome itself. Festivals honoring mothers and mother goddesses date to ancient times. The Phrygians held a festival for Cybele, the great mother of the gods, as did the Greeks for the goddess Rhea. Likewise, the Romans adapted the practice to their own pantheon. Some countries have continued to observe ancient festivals. For example, Durga Puja, honoring the goddess Durga, remains an important festival in India. Encyclopedia Britannica. So how did Romans adapt the practice to their own pantheon? There was a custom of mother worship in ancient Greece, which kept a festival to Cybele, the great mother of Greek gods. Cybele was a Phrygian goddess originating in the mythology of ancient Anatolia, whose worship spread to the cities of ancient Greece and Roman Empire. She represented the Mother Earth and was worshipped as a goddess of fertility, nature, caverns, mountains, as well as walls and fortresses, according to the New World Encyclopedia. Interesting. So, Roman Catholics borrowed the custom from Romans, who adapted it to their pantheon from the Greeks, who adopted it from even older pagan cultures like Anatolia and India. But not just any goddess. This is a festival not about honoring mothers, but straight up mother worship, and worship of the fertility goddess, called the Mother of Gods, who sits in the heavenly mountains as, quote, the sky goddess, as, quote, Queen of Heaven. Eerily similar to the Old Testament goddess Ashtaroth, also called Auster, Ishtar, Isis, also known as the Queen of Heaven. So, who does the Roman Catholic Church call the Mother of God? Mary. Where do they claim Mary supposedly rules? Heaven. Who do they associate with a fertile, blessed womb? You guessed it, Mary. From the Vatican Archives Catechism, we see, quote, finally, the Immaculate Virgin, preserved free from all stain of original sin, when the course of her earthly life was finished, was taken up, body and soul, into the heavenly glory, and exalted by the Lord as Queen over all things, so that she might be the more fully conformed to her Son, the Lord of Lords, and conqueror of sin and death. The Assumption of the Blessed Virgin is a singular participation in her Son's resurrection, as an anticipation of the resurrection of other Christians. In giving birth, you kept your virginity. In your dormition, you did not leave the world, O Mother of God, but were joined to the source of life. You conceived the living God, and, by your prayers, will deliver our souls from death. She is our mother in the order of grace. Is she, though? Or is this just a title borrowed from Rome's goddess Cybele, the great mother of the gods? No. She nor the Messiah ever approved of the Roman Catholic tradition of Mary veneration as a, quote, immaculate deliverer of our souls in the order of grace. That is elevating Mary to the position of a goddess. So, how did ancient pagans and even Yazon people worship the, quote, Queen of Heaven? Giving gifts to her so she would bless them with food and deliver them from death. Jeremiah 7:18 says, the children gather wood, and the fathers kindle the fire, and the women knead their dough, to make cakes to the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto other gods, that they may provoke me to anger. Jeremiah 44:17 says, but we shall do whatever has gone out of our own mouth, to burn incense to the Queen of Heavens and pour out drink offerings to her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our sovereigns and our heads, in the city of Judea and in the streets of Jerusalem. And we had plenty of food, and we were well off, and saw no evil. Super strange, because this custom of making cakes to Ashtaroth, or Queen Mother of Heaven, most well known for pillar phallus worship, was recorded thousands of years prior to the U.S. ever becoming a nation, or the Roman Catholic Church coming into power, and even Rome or Greece rising up from the ashes of Persia, who once claimed Anatolia, and Babylon, where Ashtaroth was worshipped, according to the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia, and is yet extremely familiar to how people of the world still celebrate Mother's Day and Easter. So let's get back to the original question. Why does the world celebrate Mother's Day? Not because it's a U.S. secular tradition, not because it's a Christian holiday, and not because Roman Catholics started it. Again, did Christians influence pagans, or did pagans influence Christians? Because pagans influenced Christians. The Encyclopedia Britannica goes on to say, the ancient Romans also had another holiday, Matronalia. That was dedicated to Juno, though mothers were usually given gifts on this day. In another place it says, what had originally been primarily a day of honor became associated with the sending of cards and the giving of gifts. However, and in protest against its commercialization, Jarvis spent the last years of her life trying to abolish the holiday she had brought into being. So eventually, the gift giving to pagan mother goddesses evolved to include giving gifts to everyday moms. So much so, it ultimately devolved into another holiday for commercialism to capitalize on the quote holiday spirit in order to just sell more product to the world. But does it really even matter? Well, maybe not to today's brand of Christianity, but it still matters a great deal to the Father in heaven. And you shall obey all my laws and all my right rulings, and do them, so that the land where I am bringing you to dwell does not vomit you out. And do not walk into the customs of the nations, which I am driving out before you. For they do all these, and therefore I loathe them. But I say to you, you are going to possess their land, and I myself will give it to you to possess it, a land flowing with milk and honey. I am Yahuwah your Elohim, who has separated you from the peoples. Leviticus 20:22-24. And this promise from the Father to bless his people with all the food they'd ever need, or vomit them out of his mouth for adopting pagan customs, has not changed for believers in the New Covenant. As Revelation 3:14-16 says, "And to the messenger of the assembly in Laodicea I write, the Amen, the trustworthy and the true witness, the beginning of the creation of Elohim, says this, I know your works, that you are neither cold nor hot. I would rather that you were cold or hot. So, because you are lukewarm, and neither cold nor hot, I am going to vomit you out of my mouth." 2 Corinthians 6:14-17 goes on to say, "For what partnership has righteousness and lawlessness? And what fellowship has light with darkness? And what agreement has Messiah with Baal? Or what part does a believer have with an unbeliever? And what union does the dwelling place of Elohim with idols? For you are a dwelling place of the living Elohim. As Elohim has said, I shall dwell in them and walk among them, and I shall be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. Therefore come out from among them and be separate, says Yahuwah, and do not touch what is unclean, and I shall receive you. And I shall be a father to you, and you shall be sons and daughters to me, says Yahuwah the Almighty." Therefore, let us remember the Messiah even said, the greatest command is not to honor our mother and father, but to love Yahuwah our Elohim. And what does Elohim mean but the provider of the house? Therefore, it's not the Father's desire for believers to follow pagan customs of venerating gods and goddesses, or our worldly parents for being the, quote, providers of sustenance, life, and protection from death, but only worshiping the one true Father in heaven, through faith in Messiah, to whom the real credit is due. As he says in John 15:5, "Apart from me, you are able to do nothing." Because part of loving Yahuwah with all our heart is obeying the first commandment. Exodus 20:1-6 says, "And Elohim spoke all these words, saying, I am Yahuwah your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You have no other gods or goddesses besides me. You do not make for yourself a carved image, or any likeness of that which is in the heavens above, or which is in the earth beneath, or which is in the waters under the earth. You do not bow down to them, nor serve them. For I, Yahuwah your Elohim, am a jealous all, visiting the crookedness of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing kindness to thousands, to those who love me and guard my commands." He also realized this truth would sometimes prove to be difficult to walk out. Sometimes our own families would persecute us and attack us for keeping the commands of the Father in heaven, misinterpreting our allegiance to Him as simple rejection of them, sometimes even pushing us to choose them over Him. But He didn't leave us without guidance in these awfully painful scenarios. He not only showed us through His own example as He rejected Mary for once attempting to reject Yah's will for fear of His execution, as we see Matthew 12 records in 46-50. "And while he was still talking to the crowds, see, his mother and brothers stood outside, seeking to speak with him. And one said to him, See, Your mother and your brothers are standing outside, seeking to speak with you." But he answering said to the one who spoke to him, "Who is my mother, and who are my brothers?" And having stretched out his hand toward his disciples, he said, "See my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the desire of my Father who is in the heavens, he is my brother and sister and mother." But he also expressed the same through direct instruction. Matthew 10:32-38 says, "Everyone, therefore, who shall confess me before men, him I shall also confess before my Father who is in the heavens. But whoever shall deny me before men, him I shall also deny before my Father who is in the heavens. Do not think that I have come to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to bring division, a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's enemies are those of his own household. He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he who does not take up his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me. He who has found his life shall lose it, and he who has lost his life for my sake shall find it." So in conclusion, we now know the true Father in heaven does desire for us to honor, respect, and love our parents. However, he does not require or desire for us to honor them through adopting popular customs stemming from the days of Egypt and Babylon. Nor does the Messiah desire for his disciples to honor their mother through practicing Cybele's Day, or Juno's Matronalia, as it was rebranded in his day. Therefore, believers of our generation should not confuse honoring our parents with accidentally venerating them in the place of Yah by adopting Mother's Day or Father's Day traditions, because Father's Day follows the exact same historical story course. But realizing we honor them best by humbly and respectfully submitting to the commands of the Father in heaven, just as the word says in Ephesians 6:1-4. "Children, obey your parents in the Master, for this is right. Respect your father and mother, which is the first command with promise, in order that it might be well with you, and that you might live long on the earth. And you, fathers, do not provoke your children, but bring them up in the instruction and discipline of the Master."